I mean, I've never thought about it that way, that it's so interesting. And I suppose you wouldn't even know what questions to ask this universal mind or these spirits based on anything else besides their experience on Earth or how they died or things that they know, because we are not familiar with how to communicate beyond what we know in life. Do you follow what I'm
Correct.
saying? Yeah. So it'd be hard to be
Absolutely.
like, what are you going through? Because maybe that's not how they associate their life, their world. We're all about purpose. What is your next purpose? And maybe that's not what they have up there or down
Well,
there,
I can
wherever.
tell you from years of research that they can tell us anything that's already happened. I mean, I literally can say, "What did I have for lunch last Wednesday?" And they'll answer and correctly, but they will not tell you anything about future. Meaning, I can literally say, "Spirits have a choice of two jobs. Which one should I take?" Crickets. They won't answer. They also won't answer what's the next set of winning Powerball numbers because we've asked many times. But we believe that they are following what we call universal laws, meaning they're not allowed to affect the life you're here to live, to learn, and to grow. And they cannot change that in any way, shape, or form because we believe we're here for a purpose, we're here for learning, we're here for growth. They can't touch that.
Well, but maybe that also means that what's in the moments ahead and the future is not already destined to be. Maybe they don't know because we think it's fate and destined and will happen no matter what. But maybe that's just not true. And they wouldn't know because it doesn't exist like that, possibly.
Great point. And that is the whole purpose, which also you take with you is free will. Humans have free will, spirits have free will to make their own choices, make their own decisions, and make mistakes by them to learn and grow. So that is an excellent point, and I completely agree.
Okay, so let me ask you a question about because I want to get into to Staticom, but what do you think of people who say they communicate with the dead in general? There are plenty of people that have made a life fortune on saying that they're famous communicators of the dead, or even down to tarot card readers. Do you believe that those are people that are essentially mentalists, or are they really communicating because of something within them? I mean, they're not using a piece of equipment like you are.
That's a very good question. My answer to that is that for somebody who actually has the ability, and let's face it, the whole tarot card reading, the psychics, the ones you'd see at like state fairs, there's a lot of people out there just looking for the cash and may not have them. But for people that actually do have the ability, and there are ones that have been tested over and over and can pass these tests, and we're not talking easy tests, the people that actually do have abilities, it's not really that different from what we do with Staticom to how they receive the information. If consciousness or spirits are energy, frequency, and vibration, then those messages, images, feelings are sent to the person who has the abilities, and they are porous enough or open minded enough to accept them exactly how our technology is doing it. The only difference is that they have to then interpret the signal. They have to figure out what message they're being sent, and then they have to turn around and restate it to you.
Right.
Whereas with Staticom, there's no third party interpreter. You will hear it directly from them.
Right. Which obviously the way they're doing it leaves, your emotions are in it. It leaves, human error,
Correct.
and things to be left to interpretation, like you said. So you never know if what they're saying is really true or just their feeling based on their experience of what they're hearing, which could
It
not be accurate.
perfectly said. Perfectly
Um,
said.
so I want to hear about the guts of how you got to this creation of Staticom. Again, like I feel like when I was younger, after watching Poltergeist, I turned on a TV. I would try and find the white noise or whatever, and just look at this blank TV and just wait for something, or use Ouija boards or whatever. So that obviously never worked. And why didn't it work for me and it works for you? Like, let's get into the whole guts of what it really is.
Sure. So as we evolved further into instrumental transcommunication, um, quite a few years ago, we partnered with another set of researchers, and they went back through history for every known method that was ever used and researched what worked, what didn't work, what was considered that they were faking it, what was considered to actually have been accurate. And the method that came forward actually um, came about before what was known as the spirit box. The spirit box was developed by a gentleman named Frank Sumption. It was basically a radio that scanned up and down the dial. But the method that we researched was called direct radio voice. And it was developed by a gentleman named Friedrich Jurgensen. Friedrich Jurgensen called press conferences like crazy, saying, hey, listen to this. I can get voices that are not of a radio station, because direct radio voice wouldn't be on a station. It would sit on just open white noise static, but yet he'd get communication. So he passed that information on to a gentleman named Konstantin Radeve. Then Radeve taught a gentleman named Marcello Bacci, who was most known for it for about 35 years. He used it, he communicated, and he would bring people into his home for sessions that had lost family members or children or loved ones, and he would actually get messages from the other side. Now, the reason we went with that method was because Marcello Bacci was actually brought into lab by scientists, and they wanted to figure out how this was occurring. And he was using an old vacuum tube radio, and they pulled the vacuum tubes one by one, basically dismantling the way the radio worked to figure out where the voices stopped. Well, they pulled all the vacuum tubes, and guess what? The voices didn't quit. He still got them. The only thing they could remove to make the voices stop were Marcello Bacci himself.
Wow. Okay. So let's talk about this two-way communication. Do you remember the day that you finally created this thing and it actually worked for you?
Well, yes, we started with recreating direct radio voice. Now, Marcello Bacci used a vacuum tube radio. Tests were done with that, with just plain white noise, and eventually voices did start to appear. But then we brought it into the 21st century. We said, okay, let's put some computerized audio filters on this so we can denoise it, so we can clean it up. None of those filters create speech. None of them have word banks. There is nothing in the system that creates speech. And white noise contains no vocal data, no words, no sentences, no even like vowel sounds, nothing. So when we got direct radio voice to work, it was I had it up and running, and actually my wife said, hey, Marcello Bacci, this was the method you used. Can you say something? And then this voice came through as clear as can be. He said, I'd say glad to meet you, which was just mind blowing. But even though he was from overseas, an Italian, and he responded to us in English, you could still hear that sort of Italian dialect in the words he was speaking in English. So that was absolutely fascinating to us.
I believe you sent a clip of that, which we'll play. But, let me ask you a question. So when this actually happens, I mean, do you just fall over the first time you hear this voice come through, like you're telling us?
With the clarity that came through, we were shocked, absolutely shocked.
Wow. All right. Now, can people do this at home? I mean, what do they need? What equipment do they need?
Well, this system is complicated. There are systems out there that are, available. I mean, even things like EVP, a simple digital recorder, can ask questions and receive answers, but it's not two-way. We wanted to elevate this to a point that science could hopefully not continue to turn their head and take a look at what we're getting. We wanted people that were skeptical to say, whoa, this is interesting. Maybe I need to open my mind a little bit, or maybe I need to experience this. We do public demonstrations. We do online events where people can hear it for themselves. We go to different Paracons where, like, we were at Phenomicon just a couple of weeks ago, and we ran it live for an hour and a half, letting people ask their own questions, get their own responses. And that was a really tough one because we had about 4 people that asked a question, got a response, recognized the voice of the person responding, and they literally just broke down crying, which was very emotional for us to see.
Wow. So some of these examples that I've heard, you submitted to us, to George and I'll be honest with you, it was hard. Some of them I could make out, but some of them it was very hard to make out what they were saying. And you had the words written at the bottom, which then you can be like, oh yeah, I get it because I replayed it a couple of times. But I mean, listen, how would you really know that you're not making this up? And there is a word for it that escapes me at the moment, but for when your brain is like almost making up words that it wants to hear. Do you know
You're
what I
talking
mean?
about you're talking about audiodola or
Okay.
pareidolia, but in
Pareidolia,
audio
that's the word.
form. In audio form.
Hmm.
So we did lots of tests. First thing we did was we took these voices to audio engineers and said, what is this? They came back and said, this is human speech down to consonant, vowel usage, diphthongs, pauses, emotional excitement being shown. This cannot happen from random warbles and artifacts of sound. It's not possible. So then what we did was then we continued to test it with could AI determine what was being said and match it to what we were hearing. Then we did voice prints, which is a spectral analysis of what we think is being said versus how a spectrogram lays that sound out, and do they match? And there is considerable matching in all of those tests that we did.
Okay. And I'm assuming skeptics say that you're hearing possible faint radio waves or something else going on. I mean, what do you say to skeptics about the radio waves?
Okay. So those were our 2 biggest hurdles to take what was known as DRV and elevate it and remove all the low hanging fruit.
Okay.
So we got rid of the radio and we replaced it with a white noise generator. A white noise generator is a small electronic circuit that allows every sound from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz to be played at a spectral frequency of 1, meaning they're all equal, without the possibility of getting radio, because it's not a radio. It doesn't have the ability to decipher RF waves and turn them into speech or music.
Mm.
When we did that, it worked. We also realized that by other research that when using spirit boxes, because we built them for 12 years trying to improve them, and we could improve the speech, what we couldn't improve was the length of the communication. The reason for that was because when the dial scans up and down through the stations, when it hits a radio station, the white noise is gone and they can't speak over the station.
I
So
see.
it was only allowing them those short fragments of time to get a message in, just through the 100 milliseconds of white noise to get that message through. When we realized that and got rid of the radio and used white noise, a word or 2 would become full sentences. And then the other thing we noticed was that they would speak so fast that we couldn't understand it. In fact, it would sound like a syllable. But when we realized if we slowed it down by 50%, we could hear the full sentence.
Got it.
So we changed the name from direct radio voice to Staticom. We made all of these processes happen in real time. So no more radio. white noise generator only. All the filters for denoising it, for clarifying, for boosting the sound, all happen live in real time. And what the white noise generator does is a physics principle called stochastic resonance. Stochastic resonance is used to take a weak signal, everything from audio to the neurons in the brain for picking up signals, to just a whole range. Even sight can be used with distortion to improve sight. That's stochastic resonance. So what happens is that when the spirit speaks, they'll overlap a handful of frequencies in the broadband white noise spectrum. Then it elevates their voice up. But because a white noise generator has a spectral frequency of 1, it doesn't raise the volume of the white noise. So their voice shoots up. Then the system automatically cuts the white noise out, leaving only the voice.